1960s. In the old black and white days of television, a television news broadcast didn't have the reputation of newspaper journalism, nor was it able to compete with live on-the-screen reporting of radio because of the lack of portable equipment. But TV news grew up quickly with the Kennedy assassination. That event was so significant, it's one of the 12 events that changed TV news coverage forever. TV news executives had to figure out a way to get live video and film to the network studios to be transmitted to the nation. (1970s). A new decade brought many breakthroughs to television news. For local stations, a trend began to have news teams presenting the news rather than just a man behind a simple desk. News stations decided that their anchor teams needed to be warm and friendly, many times poking fun with the weatherman to lighten up the show.
When I started in 1973 at Channel 9, we were using film, and the major difference in film is that it had to be developed. So if you went out to cover a fire or a shooting or murder, we still would have to have people on motorcycles come out, meet us at the scene, pick up our film. They'd rush the film downtown to the place where it was developed. Then they'd wait 30, 40 minutes for it to be developed, go through the processor, pick it up, and race back out into the station on their motorcycles so that it could be physically cut, edited, before we could get it on the air. So from the time the story broke until the time you could get it on the air was at least an hour. So you had, and you couldn't go, there was no live news because it wasn't electronic, it was film. Today, of course, you can roll up to the scene in a minicam truck and put up the mast and go live. So the major difference is the fact that with film you couldn't go live. Today, digitally, you can go live in a matter of moments.
I first started doing weather 1980, and I learned very informally at the time. I was working at a television station in Philadelphia, and the dean of science of Drexel University was an old-time weatherman from the 50s, and he would do the kind of weather where you're on, and it was like 15 minutes long. You put the Texaco hat on, and then you do a Texaco gas commercial, then you take that off and keep doing the weather, talking old school news. Where I worked in 1980 was a station called KYW in Philadelphia. And they had an interest in trying to make me a weatherman. So we contacted this former TV weatherman who was the dean of science at the school. He said, I like that guy, I'll teach him the weather. So I was very fortunate that the station paid for me to have informal classes with the dean of science at Drexel. I would meet with him a couple days a week. He got me to a point where I could go on the air doing weather, and it was a great mentor to have. So before any kind of formal weather education, I had this one-on-one crucial kind of help.
All right.
It was really, things were very different then. You did the weather by, everything was by hand. You know, nothing by computer. You had one teletype with storm warnings, and the watchers would come across the teletype machine. And all the symbols on the map were handmade with magnets, and you put a cloud up on a board, or you put a rain symbol up, or you put a sun up. So there was nothing computerized like it is today. Very, very basic.
1980s. This decade saw the introduction of computers in many newsrooms. Networks and some stations even added satellite news-gathering trucks, which allowed them to drive across country to beam back news reports. Stations looked, for many reasons, to use this equipment, even as they drove hundreds of miles to cover hurricanes that didn't threaten local coverage areas.
Today, compared to that time, we got all sorts of sources. We have the National Weather Service here locally. We have a Storm Prediction Center, which is out in Oklahoma, and they tell us a bigger picture with severe weather. We have satellite images now. We have Doppler radar, which lets you see storms all the way down to neighborhoods, you know, which
Right.
neighborhoods are affected by rain. All of that computerized information we have now. Back in those days, you only had really one source that you'd get across the wire, and you sort of waited for the wire to come across. Then you had satellite images, but they weren't really as sophisticated as they are now.
When we became a digital newsroom, we were one of the first. The Associated Press is still around today. But rather than having one of those ticker tape-like machines, it just came in from your computer through a wire service. And so we still get Associated Press and copy and stories, but it's now over the internet. It's no longer over a wire like it used to be with a machine, printing it out. This whole station is computerized, and we were one of the first, as I said, so that when we write at everyone's computer station, we all open it up and we enter the rundown for the show that the producer makes up, and each story has a slug or a title. So you click on that slug, it opens up that story, and you can write your story inside that, you X out of it, and it saves it into the rundown. So we're all on the same page still. That's important, so that if a story is killed or a story is added, then we all see it. And we have our IFBs, which are little earpieces, which are plugged into the desk, to the computer, so that we can hear the producers talk to us. If I'm reading, he'll talk to Jackie. And then when Jackie's reading, he'll talk to me to tell us, all right, we're going to kill story 9 or blah, blah, blah. And then during the commercial break, we all get caught up in what's going to happen in the next break. So we're busy, 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 and then we're on to the next, hopefully, unless nothing happens in between.
For networks, the 1990s were the years of news magazines. Many viewers were already familiar with 60 Minutes and ABC's 2020. Similar shows on the network began to schedule programs like ABC's Prime Time, Dateline on NBC, and CBS's Eye to Eye with Connie Chung.
We always write our own stories when we're out in the field. And that's something that, as a journalist, as a news person, you do. And so, you cover the stories that you get each day as a general assignment reporter, which is what I am, and / anchor. When I'm reporting, it could be anything, from City Hall to shootings in the neighborhoods, to a fire, to absolutely anything. So it means that you have to really do your reporting, find out what's going on, learn as much about the topic and the issues so that you can write a story based on whatever it is to make it as understandable and balanced and fair as you can for the viewers.
CBS 2 Mobile Weather Lab, and what it allows us to do is, it's like a portable weather station we have in the car. So wherever I go with that car, we can tell what the details of the weather are at that location, from temperature to dew point to barometer and wind speed, and give all the particulars. Plus I have radar in the car, so I can see critical weather from somewhere else and be somewhere else. Yes, we've only unveiled it a few days now, but it is another nice weather tool to have, to be able to physically be out there in the world. I sit here and wave to people at the window. Oh yeah, when the weather's good, I'm special. Well.
In 2000, the 9/11 terror attacks changed TV news in ways that could not have been predicted. Anchors found themselves having to simultaneously report news while trying to provide some reassurance to the viewer. Newsrooms that heard about rumors of further terrorist action had to decide whether they should report what they knew or wait to get the facts.